That's a good scene. I think I've read through the first 2 chapters. Hi, everybody. We're
Hey,
live.
everybody.
This is Sound Booth Theater Live. I'm here with the legendary Mr. James Hunter.
Flattered.
Of
Hey, guys.
Of the Viridian Gate online series. There's 5 out now, right?
Yeah, 6th one's almost done. I went into seclusion this week, and so I've been off the internets. Man, I've been really working a lot of long hours trying to get this dang book done. So, but I'm in the home stretch. I can finally see the end. So the 6th book, Doomforge, is almost done, and that should be out sometime, hopefully early next month. So that's the plan on that one. And then, oh boy, I mentioned this in a live a couple weeks ago, but we're rolling out pretty hard with the Viridian Gate Online expanded universe. So after Doomforge comes out, there's 8 books proper in the main series. So I'll keep working on those, and the next 2 should be done next year. But we're working on a bunch of expanded universe content. So we actually have 4 authors. These are not co-authored books, although I have read them all and I helped outline them and do all this stuff. But we have 4 different authors. Some of the short stories that you'll actually read in side quests. This was actually kind of a little primer. Jess, JD Astra, is working on a story called Firebrand. The first book is already done in that trilogy. She's working on the 2nd book. JD Bodden, who wrote A Final Kindness about the illusionist Alan, which is one of my favorite stories in the book, has finished his first novel called Nomad Soul. And it's from the perspective of one of the early game developers before Astra, the asteroid hit, and all of that stuff, as they were trying to work through the kinks of, like, how do we digitize people? So he was one of the earlier developers who actually has a terrible thing happen, and he gets uploaded and everyone thinks he's dead. So he actually goes into the game about a year before everybody else goes online. And so his story kind of follows his quests as he sort of figures out the game and the mechanics, and it overlaps a lot with the Overminds. NH Paxton is working on a story called The Alchemic Weaponeer that features Vlad, our Russian alchemist who gets up to all kinds of crazy shenanigans as he builds weapons and designs the crafter hall. And then we have one other author who's not in side quests, who's working on a story that's tentatively titled, that first book is not done yet. It's tentatively titled The Merchant King, and it's about one of the accipiter bird people who live out in the barren sands, and sort of this quest to create to become an innkeeper. It's a little bit more slice of life, but it's really cool quest. Really cool classes, really wonky, fun, quirky characters. So, and we're going to start rolling those out at the tail end of this year into next. So we got a bunch of stuff coming.
That's fucking excellent, man. You know what I really love is when an author takes their world and makes an expanded universe, and instead of just like every spin-off being just another version of the same thing, it sounds like you're doing this thing where every branch is like a completely different style.
Yeah, that's right. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't want them actually to be co-authored books, because I thought, if they're co-authored books, I have to write a bunch of them, so they're all going to sound like me. It's all going to be my ideas. It's all going to, and I really thought, no, this is a big enough universe and a cool enough universe, and there are enough talented authors that I'm going to find some really good people who are really into what we're doing and just kind of turn them loose. So all of the books and all of these sort of, we're starting as, they're actually going to be trilogies. Each one of these new spin-off series is going to be a trilogy. The ones that do well and that readers like the most we'll continue with. The ones that we don't, we'll have a nice trilogy that we'll wrap up. But these are all unique stories. There's no overlap or very little overlap with the main storyline. It's some of the characters are brand new. You've never seen them before. If you have seen them before, it's them doing things apart from Jack and apart from the main storyline, and still really cool quests, really cool class stuff, building lots of lore, really fleshing out the world. And I'm really excited. I mean, these are, to be honest, I'm reading some, as I was reading through some of these first books, I was thinking, damn, these guys are all better writers than I am. Like I feel really lucky that I have this awesome team of people that I somehow tricked into working with me, because they're all so much better than I am. So I think it's going to be really excellent. So I'm excited.
That is excellent. And one thing I want you to talk to everybody about before we get started on this book in particular is your new publishing company.
Sure.
And uh, I think I discovered that you started your publishing company like shortly before we went to Dragon Con. And when I went to Dragon Con, I was so impressed with how you and your wife were hustling like mad. You're just like they're so focused talking to people. And I mean, like it's really cool to see these companies sprout up around litRPG and around independent publishing. It's really encouraging, and I think you're probably one of the perfect people in our community to be doing something like this. So can you tell us about, number one, the publishing company, and number two, how this particular book came out of that?
Sure, and thank you. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate it. That's really kind of you to say. I just, again, I feel really lucky to be in this space and to be able to do these things. Shadow Valley Press actually started back in 2015. It was my imprint that I was just self-publishing under for a long time. And then I had a friend, Eden Hudson, who's also one of my co-authors, come out with a series of books, the Jubal Van Zandt series, which is not litRPG. They're sort of post-apocalyptic, dark, kind of wonky urban fantasy, but I loved them. And, I thought, hey, I could do something with these. So we took those on, and it was just, more than anything, it was us helping a friend out because she really loves to write, but she doesn't really like the publishing side of things. And I am Eden Hudson's probably biggest fan. Like, she is probably my favorite author, certainly on the indie scene. And so I thought, oh man, I'm in this awesome position to do this thing. So I took those books on, and we were working with her. And I was like, hey, we could maybe do a little bit more of this. So we took on Sam Witt for another sort of a one-off book from Osmark's perspective. And that went really well. We enjoyed writing that. And that kind of like, that was my first co-author book. And I was like, hey, okay, this is pretty good. Aaron Crash, who writes with us now, he's my co-author on the War Gods Mantle books. And then he also writes a series for us called American Dragons, which is sort of like a gamelit harem series that's done really well. The third book, Montana Firestorm, just came out a couple of weeks ago, and it's done really well. And the fourth book will be out in December. So we were just kind of expanding slowly. But we really wanted to do this sort of expanded universe thing because I really like the expanded universe model. I think, and I think gamelit and litRPG works really well for it because you have these big, giant open worlds with all these cool character classes and these characters that you never really get to explore. So I thought, hey, we're gonna do something with that. So that's actually part of the reason why we did this anthology. Anthologies sort of notoriously underperform and don't necessarily sell very well. This one did pretty good, much better than our expectations. But a big part of what we were doing with this is we were really looking for authors. We were looking for people who were familiar with the universe and who wanted to write stories in this universe. So we put out this big open submission call. We had a flood of stories come in. These ones, I have a little novella in here, but then we have 5 other stories were absolutely, I mean, just gorgeous stories. They were so good, so entertaining, so funny. Again, feeling very self-conscious as I was reading through them. I was like, damn it, how are all of these people so much better at this than I am? This is my universe.
They're exposing you, James.
That's right. No, seriously.
Yourself.
But so I contacted a bunch of these people after it came out, and I said, hey, how would you like, to do more of this in a bigger capacity? Let's take a run at trying to do a trilogy. And so we signed up 4 authors. We're in talks. Ray Johnson, who I think you're going to do a podcast with, is also potentially working on a litRPG story for us, not necessarily in the VGO universe, but anyway, so yeah, it's just kind of snowballed from there, and we have all of these other authors. Eden's co-authoring with me. She has she's my co-author for Rogue Dungeon. The second book comes out next a week or two, the 27th, whenever that is. I don't know what day or year it is. But the 27th is when that one comes out, and then she's also working on another new series for us. It's a little bit hard to describe, and I don't want to say too much about it. But that should come out in December. So yeah, so that's where we're at.
Well, that's excellent, man, and I'm glad that we finally get to work together because I've always admired your work, and I'm always looking for guys who like have a really solid foundation in writing and I think you definitely qualify as that. Especially, I mean, like especially since you have all this experience from urban fantasy, which is basically where I came from, as
Mm-hmm.
far as like my most successful stuff before I got into game lit and lit RPG was all urban fantasy. So, yeah, we kind of come from the same place, and now we're here, doing this awesome anthology. And
Yeah.
what's really cool about this is a first time for our company too, where we actually have every pretty much we have the entire SBT cast doing voices at least for this book. So I'm narrating two of the stories, A Gentleman's Work by James Hunter and The Funeral Parlor by Raymond Johnson. Those are the first two stories in the book. Then let's see, I think Lori Catherine Winkle will be narrating The Rating of Rowan Heath. That's the female perspective one, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And they haven't decided if Justin and Lori are still kind of undecided on stories 4 and 5, which are The Ballad of Jarrow Edgewalker by N.H. Paxton and Buried Alive by Nicholas Reid. And for sure, I believe Justin is doing A Final Kindness by DJ Bodden. So we have 3 narrators covering all 6 of these stories, but everyone will be at least doing voices. Annie will be here shortly to do one voice for A Gentleman's Work. Amara, right?
Yeah, yeah. Amara's in A Gentleman's Work. I think uh, she's in there quite a bit. So yeah, that's that one. And I'm really happy to be working with you guys, especially on this project in particular, because there are all of these different stories with all of these different characters from their perspective, and so it's really cool. Like, I don't think that we could get that from literally anyone else. Like, to be able to get the breadth of like characters and voices and different narration styles for all of these stories. So I think it's just, man, I think I'm really excited to see how it turns out. I think it's just going to be great. I am really, really excited to be working with you guys.
Me too. I'm chomping at the bit to get to this, especially since your story, A Gentleman's Work, is first person perspective of Cutter.
Yeah.
The I don't know, maybe the most fun character that I encountered from Viridian Gate Online. I've only
Yeah,
listened to the first book, but like, I mean, he's a great comic relief, but also still badass and like brooding.
yeah. No, he's probably my among my favorite characters, certainly in the VGO series. He's a little bit too wonky to be the main character for the straight series, because he would just be like, crazy quest line. Nah, I'm just gonna drink ale and like gamble away all of the money that I have, because he's not really very driven. He's really good at being a thief and really terrible at literally everything else. And he has no real aspirations for greatness, which a good protagonist needs, I think, because it kind of drives the story along. His only goal in life is like, I just want to gamble and drink until I'm blackout drunk, and at some point I'd like to retire in a bathtub full of gold coins. And that's pretty much the extent of my aspirations. So this one's a little bit interesting, and I think it's the second book, Crimson Alliance. We find out that the main bad guy, Sereth Rog, who's kind of this demon prince guy, is using his dark acolytes to infiltrate different key institutions across Elgard. He's sort of secreting his dark acolytes in there so that when he invades, they'll be set up in strategic locations to sort of bring down the entire system. And Cutter discovers one of these dark acolytes is his former mentor, Gentleman Georgie, and he ends up killing Gentleman Georgie and getting this quest line to become the Gentleman of the Rowan Heath Thieves Union or Thieves Guild, if he wants to, which he doesn't, because he has no aspirations toward greatness. And then finally, in this little short story, he's sort of pushed into it by Amara, who is this merc elf chieftain's daughter and sort of his love interest, who thinks he's way better than he is, and she is really pushing for him to do something with his life. So he begrudgingly is like, fine, if it'll get you to leave me alone, I will go make something extraordinary out of my life. God, right? So that's kind of his whole thing.
All right, I'll be responsible.
I'll do adult things, whatever. Okay.
Okay. Well, I think that's clearly one of the main things that men need to be driven to be responsible is a woman to kick us in the ass.
It's an
To do
accurate
so.
assertion, I think.
This is a very, very common story. Common, well, not common. I would say uh, it's deeply entrenched in our culture. This story.
I think that it's it's way too relatable for me. I think a lot of my relationship with my wife is reflected far too heavily in Cutter and Amara's relationship. It hit a little bit close to home, and I was like, "Damn, man, I'm working out some demons here. This is something." So no, but it was a fun story to write, and it's one that people have been asking for a long time. So I thought, oh, what a better. There's no better place to do it than here.
Right on. Well, let's get started. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking that we can start off with chapter 1.
Sure.
And then do you have a couple other scenes that you want to hear in particular?
Boy, that's a good question.
We got Gavin, who I think you probably want to hear.
Yeah, that's kind of a fun setup for the book. Not right now. Sorry, my daughter's knocking on the door. Oh, my wife is streaming this on our TV out in the living room, and my daughter is going crazy because she thinks I'm on TV right now. So she's she is. See, I am her movie star right now, so that's pretty cool. But Gavin that's really good, and actually, you know what? I think chapter 3 is pretty good too. The Informant, I kind of like the Ministry of Whispers. I think that's kind of an interesting thing, and then we sort of get an introduction to the rest of the characters in the story. So I mean, I think if you want to like just blaze through 1, 2, and 3, that might be a good little intro to the story and a good way to go with it.
Let's do this then. And James, anytime I'm getting a voice wrong, you can stop me. Be like, I
will, but I trust you. You are way better at talking than I am at talking. So I'm going to trust you and lean pretty heavily on your expertise here.
Okay. And when we come up to a new character, I'll stop and be like, okay, who's this?
Gotcha.
You can give me some direction. All right.
I'm just reading along here. Just
A Gentleman's Work by James A. Hunter. 1. Broken Dagger. I slipped around a tight corner, the night quiet except for the pitter-patter of a light rainfall and the distant howl of a guard dog offering warning. I sighed, then pulled my hood up just a little bit, ensuring the rain stayed bloody well out of my eyes as I headed into an alleyway, cast in a perpetual gloom no matter the time of day. A rough-looking place, that alleyway. Not the kind of place a bright bloke would venture. Not at noonday, and certainly not in the arse-crack of night. Everything about it screamed a warning. Bad angles, narrow passage, an untold number of inky pockets of shadow, all perfect for an enterprising thief to hide away in. Some miscreant like yours truly, just waiting patiently for some dumb mark to wander by unawares. Me, though, I'm no dumb mark, and these dark alleys were more familiar to me than my officer's suite over at Darkshard. I glanced back over one shoulder, eyeing my new underlieutenant, Jake Blackblade Goodrich. He was a wiry little shite with a mop of brown hair and a razor-thin scar running down one cheek. He was a traveler, but I didn't hold that against him, especially since he was bloody good with a blade and damned quick on his feet. "Head on a swivel, eh?" I said, quirking an eyebrow at him. "I might have Georgie's blade, but it's been a time since I've poked around here. Hard to say how the reception will be now that we're bedfellows with the gods-be-damned Imperials. Jake offered me a lopsided grin and pulled free a gleaming black dagger, giving it a fanciful spin. A flourish I taught him personally. Even most good thieves couldn't pull off the trick. Hands weren't fast enough for it. Georgie had taught me the trick as a boy. Hells, it was part of the reason he'd brought me on in the first place, because hands like mine, well, they don't come along every day.
Real quick. So Jake is one of my beta readers, and he's pretty common in the litRPG community. I think he beta reads for just about everybody. But he works a lot, and he reads through just a ton of our books. He's a really good guy. And so I wrote him in here, and he has a strong, I know from talking with him, Minnesota accent. Okay. So that's Jake.
So when I think of a Minnesota accent, when I'm trying to do a Minnesota accent, I'm always thinking of Fargo, right?
Yeah.
I'm always thinking of Fargo, and I never hear low, gravelly voices.
He's
with a Minnesota accent, so this is going to be difficult.
It's gonna be a challenge. I've talked with him. So Jake is I think he's just he's a construction worker, and but yeah, he's got that kind of low voice. But and even now I'm thinking about it, and it's hard to do. But he's got the don't you knows in there, and he's got the
yeah.
And so good luck.
It's gonna be tough. I'll try.
You got it.
I got your back, boss.
Oh, that's good, actually. That's really good.
Jake said, his voice rough, a bit gravelly, and marked with a strange accent. Grim Jack called it a Minnesota accent. Jake was a drunk, a gambler, and a joker. All fine traits, so long as he was loyal, too. And so far, I hadn't found a man better in a pinch, except for Jack, of course. Well, him and Amara. But Amara wasn't a man. You just tell me who needs stabbing and I'll stab him, Jake continued. Boom, pow, straight to the moon. I'm also good with kneecaps, don't you know? So if you need me to pull a Tanya Harding, I'm all about it. His grin widened. I rolled my eyes and rubbed at the bridge of my nose. Tanya Harding? Gods. But sometimes these travelers are a right goofy bunch of bastards. Just remember to stab the enemy with the pointy end, eh? I said, then turned back to the alley. I padded deeper in, making for an unmarked and unassuming 3-story building of dirty white plaster with a glossy black door. The Broken Dagger, tavern, inn, and the hidden lair of the Rowan Heath Thieves Guild, though honest to bloody hell, guild was the wrong word. More of a union, really. Just sort of a loose coalition of like-minded people. Business people. Ones with a flexible view of the law. I straightened my back, took one deep breath to calm my jittery nerves. I'm the best bloody thief in all of Edgard, I reminded myself, and pushed my way in, a wide, shit-eating grin plastered across my face. The first rule of a good con man lay in the word itself. Con was short for confidence. That was the most essential asset any thief needed. More than stealth, more than quick hands, more than a wicked sharp blade. Confidence opened doors no lockpick ever could, and acted as a better disguise than even the finest illusion. That was a thing Jack still had to learn. He was a gifted leader. It came natural to him, like a fish to water. But hells did he have confidence issues. I motioned for Jake to follow as music washed over me, intermixed with the shouts of gruff men and the baying of raucous laughter. A reputable sort of man might find the Broken Dagger to be a questionable sort of establishment. There wasn't a reputable man for a mile, though. The interior was murky, thanks to the absence of windows, and illuminated mostly by a roaring fire at the far right-hand side of the room. Blue-grey smoke drifted lazily around in great billowing clouds, and the smell of sweat, dirt, tobacco, and sour mead clung to everything like a gauzy veil. The men and women who packed out the rough-hewn tables were tough, dirty-faced folk, though these days there were fair few number of Alliance guards enjoying a drink or a bite as well. The Thieves' Union had done right by the Crimson Alliance, and the Alliance had paid out in kind. Never had it been so easy to be a thief in Rowan Heath, nor so profitable. I took another deep breath, savouring the spicy smoke that filled my nostrils. My grin widened. Guards below, but it felt good to be home. Yanam?
Unam. It's a
Unam.
it's a Thai word. Actually, all of the Stormmarsh cities and classes are. So I spent a fair amount of time in Thailand, and a lot of that the Stormmarches are actually based on the Northern Hill tribes in Thailand. So you can actually, if you Google the sixth name clans of the Merc Elves, they actually relate to Northern Hill tribes clans that are in Thailand. And a lot of the cities and the architecture, the stilted houses, all of that stuff, it's all sort of Thai inspired. So yeah, I wrote yeah. So a lot that's the origin of all that stuff. So
That's fucking awesome.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, so Yunam
Yunnan.
isn't Nam water?
It is water. That's right.
So Yun, do you know
It's
what this means?
I think it's something like flowing water. It means something sort of akin to a waterfall. So
Yunam wasn't such a bad place, especially since Amara was there, and there was no one who provided more of a challenge or a reward than her. But nothing beat the Broken Dagger. This place, the rattle of dice, the clink of coins changing hands, the sloshing of endless flagons of mead as servers whisked through the crowds, carting away empties and bringing full glasses. There was nothing like it. I glanced at a dour-faced Voltifar.
and these are all
Vatilfar?
Nordic. So that's yeah. I have no idea that
Vitilfar.
yeah, that sounds right.
I'm gonna do it
That's
right.
good.
Vitilfar. I glanced at a dour-faced Vitilfar gent playing a hammered dulcimer on the stage while a woman I didn't recognize sang and swayed beside him. She was a fair-skinned woad with platinum blonde hair and a gossamer shift that was finer than bloody spider silk. She saw me eyeballing her and shot me a wink, thrusting her hip toward me. I snorted and turned away, entirely uninterested. Once upon a time, a wink like that might have reeled me in like a fat catfish, but these days I had Amara. And Amara would have eaten that siren alive, then picked her teeth with the woman's bones when she was done. Still, it was damned good to be here. Amara had pushed me to come back, and suddenly I was glad I'd let her. I hadn't been back much since killing Georgie. No, not Georgie, I reminded myself, but his dark doppelganger. But this felt right. I belonged here. I caught Jake's eye. The stupid sod was damned near enraptured by the scantily clad woman, and nodded toward the long wooden bar, presided over by an innkeeper with a balding dome and a prodigious gut. Stannis Lawson. The man wasn't officially a part of the Union, but he'd served as the legitimate front man of the broken Dagger for as long as I could remember. When Georgie had pulled my sorry, scrawny ass out of the gutters and into this fine establishment, Stannis had been standing behind the bar then, just as he was now. Though he'd had a full head of hair then, and 3 or 4 stones... Though he'd had a full head of hair then, and 3 or 4 stones less weight hanging off his belly. Stannis's eyes flared as I slipped up, and a sheen of nervous sweat broke out across his shiny forehead. I nodded at him, but then turned my eyes on the leather-clad thief sitting precariously on a wobbly stool, directly in front of a mahogany door which led to the back. A pang of guilt blasted through me like a bolt fired from a bloody crossbow. In bygone days, Nariah had manned that post. Nariah?
Yep.
We'd been close. Came up through the ranks together. Though, admittedly, The bastard had once stabbed me in the kidney as a practical joke. But he was gone now, dead during a raid on the Imperial Legion camp just before the Battle of Ravenkirk. Such was the existence of citizens, though. Life was a fleeting thing. I shook my head, clearing away the memory, and headed over to the new lookout. Big and beefy, Uriah's exact bloody opposite, with sandy hair and purple bags loitering beneath muddy brown eyes. Bloke had frown lines etched into the corners of his mouth and looked like a right bloody shithead. Still, charm and confidence could win over even the most disgruntled wankers. And if it didn't, there was always gold. Loot was the one language all thieves spoke fluently.
Help you?
He grunted at me, lips pulling back in distaste as he crossed thick arms across a barrel chest. I offered him a dazzling grin. Obviously you can. Let me through, friend. I waved at the door. He grunted non-committally and squinted, studying my face.
Nope. Don't recognize you. And you ain't no friend of mine. Beat it.
Annoying. I turned the grin up to full blast, though I knew my eyes shone with a hint of imminent violence. Surely you're joking, eh? You actually expect me to believe that you don't recognize the face of the best thief in all of bloody Eldgard? And the most handsome to boot? The thug in the leathers gave me one more long, appraising look, then shrugged, bent over, and spat onto the dirty floorboards.
Not a joke, bud. And unless you get a real thief to vouch for you, you ain't going back there.
He hooked a thumb over one shoulder toward the door. My smile transformed into a cold, feral thing as I struck like lightning. My hand flew forward, conjuring a single smoky dagger from thin air. Nightblade. The inky blade zipped through the air, sank into his raised hand, parting flesh with ease, and pinned his oversized mitt to the door like a trophy mounted to the wall. He let out a cry of shock as a fraction of his HP bar dropped and a gout of blood trailed down his forearm. He scrambled for a shoddy dagger at his belt, but I was inside his measure in a heartbeat, Georgie's golden rapier springing to my hand. I slipped the deadly tip up under his jaw, and he froze. He may not have known me, but every thief in the Union knew a gentleman's blade. I watched as the rusted cogs seemed to clank to life in his mostly empty skull, and a fearful recognition dawned in his eyes.
Holy crap! You're him!
He faltered, eyes wide with wonder.
You're Cutter, right hand of the Jade Lord himself!
I shot him a wink and snapped my fingers. The shadowy dagger embedded in his flesh dissipated as I withdrew the rapier. A bright bead of crimson clung to the underside of his chin. Be a good chap and let me through, eh? The thug knocked over his stool, and his madcap rushed to get out of my way, pushing the door open and waving his still bloody hand toward the opening. Good man, I said, clapping him on the shoulder as though we were old friends. Then, to show there were no hard feelings, I fished a golden crown from a pouch at my belt and flicked it to the man. Always tip the help. Always. Let's be about our business, eh, Jake? All right, so that was chapter 2. Am I hitting Cutter in the right spots?
Dude, you're killing it. It sounds so good.
Thank you.
Just really incredible.
All right, so we're moving on to chapter 2. I need to get a glass of water, though.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
I don't know why I didn't get one before. Feel free to keep chilling.
Yeah, I don't. Let me just hop on over to Facebook and see if there's any comments. I actually don't know how this works. I've never done. That's not true. I have done it, but I don't know how it works or if people can comment. There's got to be a way that people can comment, I'm sure.
All right. Sorry about that, guys. We're going to run on through chapter 2. I like this Gavin character. I'm excited to visit him too. I always
Yeah,
like these. I always like these kind of dark, gentlemanly, poised but still threatening type of characters.
yeah, me too. They always remind me of a good Bond villain. You never know quite where they're going to come down on the spectrum of things, but those are always fun. Oh, thank you, Dave. Dave says the comments are all on YouTube, so that's good to know.
Oh yeah. If you want to, go ahead and click the link to the actual stream and then mute it, obviously, and you'll see the chat there.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
All right. Chapter 2: The Gentleman's Gentleman. The mahogany door let us into a narrow, unadorned hallway which positively burned with light. Not a pocket of shadow anywhere to be seen. This was the only way into the Union House proper, and no thief would sneak in. Could sneak in. Not even me. We headed down a set of winding stairs which let out into a basement, and not some dank root cellar either. Oh no, the Union House in Rowan Heath was one of the finest thieving facilities in all of Eldgard. We stepped out into a sprawling complex featuring a sparring area, complete with straw practice dummies, and a full archery range. And that was only the tip of the blade. Off to the left was an entire room filled with doors and chests, devoted entirely to the subtle art of the lockpick. A handful of hooded men and women, all likely low-level recruits looking to prove their mettle, were tinkering endlessly with the locks, lost in concentration. It's interesting, this particular accent. It's not quite Cockney. It's like somewhere in between, like the proper and Cockney. So I have to choose which T's to pronounce.
Yeah, it's always really hard to write, and that's one of the reasons why I was always a little bit hesitant to write a story predominantly from his POV, because when you're like writing out the accents, if you write too much, it can make it unreadable. Like, so in Doomforge, I have a sort of a minor character who has sort of this Scottish burr, and so when I was, sorry, I see myself on the screen, it's tripping me out here. That's no good. So when I was writing it, I had to decide, like, okay, how full on do I want to go? With changing the O's to the A and the E and all of that, because if you do it too much, it just really becomes like a chore for readers. But if you don't do it enough, you don't necessarily capture the accent and the tone. So that's always a struggle for me when I'm writing a character with an accent. It's like, how much do I need to commit? But yeah,
I think
you're killing it, man.
Well, I think you killed it as far as actually writing from his point of view. And like I remember when I first started reading the first chapter, I noticed the Britishisms, and I was like, yes, this is gonna be so fun. And because it really does flow easy.
Mm-hmm.
A few more initiates loitered at a handful of round tables, sipping mead and eating stew as they wagged chins and enjoyed the evening. That friendly chatter died the second I strolled into the room. It was like I'd cut their words off with the edge of my blade. Old hands. Some of them I recognized. Dion's scars, there in the hood. Kimber the smile in the tight-laced corset. Minnie, I didn't. It had been a while, and a lot had happened since my days of skulking around these back rooms. I shot them all a nod and a grin, then continued on my way, hooking left and heading down a narrow passageway that connected to a set of corkscrew stairs, drilling down. Down, 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 all the way to the gentleman's private suite. At the bottom of the stairs was yet another door, this one crafted from reinforced iron with warded locks. No getting around those. Not without a gods be damned runic breaker, and those were about as common as an ancient dragon. I could count those blokes on one hand, and most of them worked for merc companies like the Cold Skulls, where their talents commanded a hefty premium. Thankfully, I had the key. I pulled out the rapier once more, giving it a couple quick flicks with my wrist. then pressed the guard to an etched stone pad with a glimmering red rune set into the frame. The door clicked and swung inward, the hinges screeching like a swamp banshee. Yet another precaution against potential assassins. No matter how high someone's stealth was, that door would give them away every time, assuming they did somehow manage to breach it. I nudged the door open with the toe of my boot, not entirely certain what I would find inside. I sure as bloody shite wasn't expecting the suave-looking bastard sitting in Georgie's chair. My forehead furrowed as I studied him. Roguishly good-looking. Not as good-looking as me, obviously, and older. A swath of black hair with a splash of grey at the temples and the shadow of a beard clinging to his face. He wore a velvet smoking jacket, which reeked of a high-class socialite, and tight-fitting trousers capped by knee-high leather boots polished to a dull glow. He looked like one of those pompous, jackass nobles who trounced around New Viridia. Rich travellers who played at being lords while they shopped and partied, ignoring the fact that there was a bloody war for survival going on. The very type of people I loved to rob. At least back in the days when I was breaking and entering. Running with Jack and company had seriously undercut my thievery. The man puffed contentedly at a bulbous hawk-billed pipe as he read over a sheaf of parchments covered in flowing scrawl. His hands, I noticed, were littered with tiny white scars, a myriad of them, which he'd probably earned through years and years of blade work. Interesting. Certainly not the hands of a noble. He didn't immediately acknowledge my presence, so after a few seconds I cleared my throat. Finally, with exaggerated slowness, he set the papers down on an end table next to him, crossed his legs, and glanced up. His eyes were blue, like chips of cold diamond, and a steady stream of blue smoke drifted up as he regarded me. "Cutter," he said, his voice as velvety as the coat he wore. "Dismiss your man there." He waved toward Jake. "Then get us a drink, won't you?" Not a question. A brief pang of worry flared through me. This guy, for all his soft appearance, set me on edge. He was dangerous, of that there was no doubt. But I was damned dangerous too, not to mention death wasn't the barrier for me it had once been. I was a traveler now. Well, like a traveler anyway, but better. All of the perks, but with the impeccable taste and know-how of a local. I nodded to Jake. "Get out of here, it's fine." He retreated without hesitation and closed the door behind him. "I'm not getting a drink, though," I said as the door clicked shut. "Since you know my name, I assume you know that I'm the best thief in Eldgard, not a bloody serving maid. Get your own damned drink." The man chuckled and uncrossed his legs. "Fiery. I like that about you. Georgie always said you were almost more trouble than you were worth. But only almost." I pulled out a jet black dagger and began to clean my nails, playing it cool. Always cool. "I'm tired of chit-chatting, my friend," I said after a beat. "It's been a long, bloody day, and you're sitting in my chair." The man offered me a lopsided grin, but made no move to go. "Perhaps this is your chair," he said, "but that remains to be seen." He paused, stealing another long puff of the pipe, then exhaling a great cloud of fragrant smoke. "First, you have to prove your worth, Cutter. Or should I call you Francis?" I froze, my confidence evaporating in a heartbeat. Francis. I hadn't heard that name in years. My mother had called me that, after my father. But Georgie, who had been a real father to me, had given me a better name after he saw how deft I was at cutting purse strings on passing quaestors?
Yeah, it's a Roman word, sort of a tax collector.
Had given me a better name after he saw how deft I was at cutting the purse strings on passing quaestors, out collecting the Emperor's tax. That isn't my name, mate. It's Cutter. The man cocked an eyebrow and thumbed his nose conspiratorially. But it was once. It was Georgie that gave you a proper name. A thief's name, after he picked you up off the streets, after you were cast away from your noble family, the bastard child of a Viridian lord. I gritted my teeth, a snarl forming on my lips. I vanished my blade up my sleeve with a flick of my wrist and a twirl of my fingers. In the same swift movement, I drew Georgie's rapier, the golden metal glimmering in the firelight. That's enough. Now, who in the nine hells are you, and what do you want? The man lifted his hands, weaponless. What I want is the same thing as you, I think. The same thing Georgie wanted, I'll wager. I want you to ascend. I want to see you added to the ranks of the esteemed gentlemen, just as you were always meant to be. He lowered his hands, then shrugged. But these things, well, they are never easy, nor are they a handout, which is something you ought to know. In the Union, and especially among the gentlemen themselves, there is no charity. You're only as good as what you bring to the table. I bring this bloody damned sword to the table, I barked, slamming the rapier down. Taken off the body of my friend and mentor, who was killed by my own bloody hand. Uh-oh. Did we lose you earlier?
Yeah, sorry, just for a minute there. I don't know what happened. My internet must have cut out. But I am back.
Right. Okay. He's okay, guys. Don't worry. He's not dead.
I know. It was not Godzilla crashing through my house and obliterating me. It's fine.
Okay. I'm going to start back here. Okay. I bring this bloody damned sword to the table, I barked, slamming the rapier down. Taken off the body of my friend and mentor, who was killed by my own bloody hand. Yes, the man replied politely with a bob of his head. And that earns you a chance, which is where I come in. My name is Gavin Marston. Perhaps you've heard of me? He let the name linger in the air. Oh, bollocks. Gavin bloody Marston. Of course I'd heard of him. Hands down, I was the best thief in all of Eldgard, but if there were ever anyone to rival me, it was Gavin Marston. Every city in Eldgard had a local thieves' union chapter and a smugglers' guild, each run by an esquire. But the big cities, Ankara, Rowanheath, Herwick, Weirdtide, Alune Hills, Gloam Quarry, Stone Reach, and New Viridia, where all the action happened, those were each run by a gentleman, 8 in total. Gavin Marston was neither an esquire nor a gentleman. He was something more. The gentleman's gentleman. A free agent, respected by all the ruling gentlemen and esquires alike, entrusted with settling disputes and ensuring parity, as much as was possible with thieves, among the unions and guilds. With Georgie gone, Gavin continued, I've been holding down the fort here, one of my many duties, while we wait on his replacement to step up. While we've been waiting on you, to be frank, since no one else seems to want the job. He pursed his lips into a tight line as he looked at me, then raised his pipe once more. You've inspired loyalty in the members of this faction, my boy. Your friendship with the Jade Lord has been a boon for the thieves of dear Rowanheath. And more than that, crossing you means crossing the Alliance, a thing no one wants, especially not if the rumors are true. Rumors? I replied, letting nothing show on my face. Why, that you've done the impossible. That you have become as a traveler. His words were equal parts question and statement. I didn't say a bloody word. I could let him stew. Gavin waved his own question away. At any rate, there is much in your favor. I believe you could do a damned fine job running this chapter house. Perhaps even lead us into a golden age. Honestly, I'm rooting for you. But as I said, this is no charity. You want this job, this chair? You must prove you are a thief who is worthy of the title. And not a simple cutthroat, nor a pickpocket. A gentleman must be all things, regardless of their base class. One scarred hand slipped into his smoker's jacket, fishing out a cream-colored envelope from a pocket. Envelope. A cream-colored envelope from a pocket. To that end, I have a mission for you. A quest, if you will. One that will greatly aid our cause. He paused, one slender finger tapping at the edge of the envelope. But this is a quest that is nearly impossible. One that will test your mettle. Succeed, and you shall be a gentleman indeed. One of the 8. Fail, and you relinquish the right to that sword and any sway over the Rowan Heath Guild. Do you accept? 1 second. I think... no, that's too much. Okay, so I think we should skip to chapter 3 from here.
Sure.
Because let's see, what time is it? Yeah, we don't have too much more time.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I took up too much time bumping my gums.
No, it's fine. That's what we want. That's what people want, is to hear from the author, hear about the book itself. But
you are wrong. They want to hear you. Your voice is like honey, and it's soothing to the soul. Nobody wants to hear me. Trust me. Everybody's here for you, man.
All right, let's see here. This is Jake and Cutter's conversation at the end of 2. And then we'll go straight to 3, and I'm going to go get Annie real quick. So... we get sorrow in this chapter as well?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of stuff. There's some stats and stuff that we can skip over. Yeah, so he meets this informant from the Ministry of Whispers, and then he heads back to the Broken Dagger and meets up with the rest of the crew, which includes Mara. We have Vlad in here, and then I think we have Forge as well, who is our Reese Texan, who's also the baddest sumbitch in all of Bell County.
Cool. All right. So it looks like Amara doesn't come in until like right near the end of the...
Yeah, so you can skip forward a little bit if you like. Chapter 4, if you want more Amara, we could probably skip chapter 3, because chapter 4 is they're breaking into this place to get this invitation, and there's quite a bit of stuff I think with her in there as well. So
well, maybe let's okay, hold on. This first half, maybe we get sorrow.
And then the last the last chunk is his interaction with the rest of the team, and that would probably be a pretty good passage.
And maybe we'll skip from him talking to the rest of the team into... Well, I think actually that'll be fine. Just do the first bit of chapter 3 where we have sorrow happening, and then we'll skip over all these stats and into the team.
Yeah, that would probably be great.
All right. So, slick and greasy. Sounds fun. Okay. I padded through the gloomy dark, cloaked in a swath of... I padded through the gloomy dark, cloaked in a swath of shadow, making my way down a wide boulevard of paved stone called Porter's Road. This stretch of road was the main thoroughfare for coaches, carts, and caravans trundling through Rowan Heath, and was also home to a good chunk of the city's mid-end businesses, places where a bloke with a few coins to rub together could acquire just about anything they needed. There were tailors, weavers, apothecaries, grocers, fletchers, bakers, and blacksmiths. Each shop was marked by a blocky wooden sign decorated with hand-painted pictures displaying the wares within. At this ungodly hour, though, the shops were buttoned up nice and tight, the majority of the windows darkened to the world, the street hawkers retired to their beds. It was an excellent time for a thief to be about his business, all those shops just ripe for the plucking. Sadly, my business was elsewhere, an even poorer section of the city than where the Broken Dagger resided, the Burrow Downs, a little pocket of squalor where folk went to die. I hooked a right, leaving behind gleaming storefronts and clean cobblestone walks. I stuck to the back alleys, wiggling through the narrow gaps between buildings, until I found myself on dirty streets lined with garbage and grime of all varieties, plus a host of snoring bodies curled up beneath thick blankets, which protected against the chill of the evening air. It was late autumnus, what Jack and company called fall, so the heavy snows hadn't come to the city yet, but sleeping uncovered was a good way to get slapped with a frostbite debuff. A nasty bit of business that would slowly eat through HP. A nasty bit of business that would slowly eat through HP as surely as a dose of potent poison. Many a local died that way, simply gone to sleep, never to wake up. I headed out onto a dusty street filled with shoddy, lopsided homes, the plaster walls dirt-caked and covered with graffiti, the roofs thatched instead of wooden slats or ceramic tile like in the good quarters of the city. The building I wanted was dead ahead, an inconspicuous two-story place with a flat roof and a heavy iron door. The shop itself looked like an absolute shithole, but that door was serious business. No thief was liable to get through there, and it would take an entire cohort of city guards to break that slab of metal down. This place had a sign above the door. No words, just a crude painting of a bent spoon. I snarled, hands balling into fists. A bloody damn Afka den. Technically, Afka didn't fall under the Thieves' Union jurisdiction. Thieves stole, they pickpocketed, they robbed, they fenced pilfered goods, and occasionally they performed thug work, even assassinations on occasion, though that last crossed dangerously close to Sicari turf. In Eldgard, everyone had their own piece of the pie, and Afka distribution was smugglers' union all the way. Ruined a lot of lives, though, Afka. Nasty. Ate a man up from the inside. Ruined his mind. Not like booze. Me? I never touched the bloody stuff. The man I needed slipped out from the long shadow of the bent spoon. He was a dawn elf, tall and willowy, but he was clearly an Afka addict, his eyes too deep set, his skin paper-thin, his body gaunt, almost skeletal. Had the look of a mumble crust, that one, though I knew he lived in the Afka den. None of that was my affair, though. The man could do what he bloody pleased, so long as he was also good at his job. And Sorrow? He was the best at his job. An informant with the Ministry of Whispers. The Union had their own eyes and ears scattered around Eldgard, of course, but those blokes couldn't hold a candle to the Ministry of Whispers. That lot had a network of informants second to none, and Sorrow was easily the best in Rowan Heath. Maybe the best on the continent, though he was also an armpit stain on humanity in general. All right. Cutter, he said as I approached, his voice slick and greasy like his lank hair. It's been a while since I last saw you. You've been busy with the new Jade Lord, I hear. He grinned and rubbed at one pointed ear. If the rumors are true, you even have a new love in your life. Amara, daughter of a Storm Marsh chieftain. He paused, canting his head to the side. Busy indeed. And now you seek to take the reins of the Union here in the city. Quite impressive. You're getting big, my friend. Very big. I'd only sauntered into the Broken Dagger less than 2 hours ago, and already Sorrow knew the purpose of my arrival. But then, that was all a part of the game. The dance. A ploy to show just how good he was, how fast and reliable his sources were. It was also an opportunity to scare the ever-living shite out of lesser men. I know your secrets, and I can hurt you with but a whisper. I offered him a dazzling grin in return, letting his implied threat roll off me. Indeed. but I haven't gotten so big as to forget who my friends are. I dipped a hand into my pocket and fished a fat golden coin from my belt, then added a second. I flipped both through the air with a flick of my thumb, and Sorrow snatched them up with dexterous hands and a greedy glint in his eye. That was 2 more days on his dirty pallet down in the filthy basement of the Bent Spoon. Now, since you know so much, tell me why I came, I said, equal parts question and statement. Sorrow grinned, showing the gaps in his teeth.
You know that isn't the way it works, Cutter. The asking is as important as the answer. Such is our way. You know this, though.
He tapped his crooked nose at me. I sighed and rolled my eyes, running one thumb over the hilt of the dagger tucked in my belt. For a group that mainly employed servants, addicts, and brothel workers, the Ministry of Whispers was surprisingly stringent on their rules and protocols. Fine. There's a party over in Heroic, in the Inquisitor's chapter hall. In the Inquisitor's chapter hall. I need a way in. Preferably an invitation. Which means I need to find someone local who happens to be attending. And a bonus to you if you can find me someone that won't be readily missed.
And is this an official alliance action?
Sorrow asked, suddenly all business.
Perhaps a ploy by the Jade Lord to undercut the temporary truce with the Emperor?
You know it isn't, I replied flatly. Until the Vogthar situation is resolved, there will be no boat rocking between the Alliance and the Imperials. Black Hood work.
Then what do you offer?
The man asked, extending a hand with 2 long nails. I grunted, annoyed, and pulled out another 5 gold marks. Imperial currency. I plunked the coins down in his dirty, outstretched hand, but knew that wasn't the only thing he wanted. Or rather, required. The Ministry dealt in secrets, and although coin could offset the ledger, secrets had to be paid with secrets. Thankfully, this was a game I could play well, even used to my favor. Working for Jack and the Alliance, I often dispersed little-known tidbits that would build Jack's renown when circulated. And I had the perfect secret, one that would strike fear into the heart of Carrera and bolster morale with the Alliance troops. Jack discovered a sacred relic in the realm of order that may have the power to kill Thanatos and stop the Vogthar. For good. Set everything to rights. I extended a hand, pulled free my blade, and with an artful flourish traced a thin line across my palm. Crimson bloomed against my pale skin. I swear this is true on blood and bone, and call upon Adiculus?
Yeah, let's go with that.
And call upon Adiculus the Architect, overseer of cities and compacts, as my witness. A halo of cerulean light, brilliant against the inky night, swirled around me, burning away the blood from my palm and sealing the wound in a flash. Sorrow grinned even wider, the gears in his head grinding away, figuring out just how much a whisper such as this might be worth to the right buyers. He idly tongued the gap in his teeth.
Very well,
he finally said after a time.
What you need can be found here in the city. A citizen named Frostelf Corson. He's a merchant. Rich, but relatively unknown, and he rarely attends such functions. It should be an easy thing to pass yourself off as him. He lives over in the Upper Garden district.
All right, and so that's Soros's scene, and now we're going to skip over to the scene with the rest of the team. I'm going to go get Annie now.
Cool. I'm just going to fill you guys in on the rest of it while he goes and gets her. So basically, he backtracks over, Cutter backtracks over to the Broken Dagger, makes his way through. He finds a package waiting for him from the Gentleman's Gentleman. It's a sort of a test run of gear. It's a gentleman's fine clothing set, which has a whole bunch of bonuses and stuff and makes him look all hoity-toity. So there's a bunch of gear and some stats. He goes over his sorry, I'm having a crazy brain fart here. He goes over his class kit a little bit and talks about the Nightblade skill tree and some of his skills, looks at some of that stuff. And then it switches over as the rest of the crew finally arrives. Hey there! As the rest of the crew finally arrives, and he sort of gives them the rundown on the plane and what's going on. So I think a good place to pick up would be a sharp knock at the door gave me a start.
A sharp knock at the door. 1 second.
I don't see it in here, Jeff.
Ah, I see. Okay, 1 second.
That's weird. Let me try again. I did email it to you because I got it. I added you to. And it says I sent it to you. So let me try again.
Oh.
All right, I just sent it again. There we go.
Here it is. Do the same thing.
Yeah, I think you just weren't signed in.
I think if you go to you see the share button at the top right?
Oh, yeah. Kept the candle.
There we go.
Okay, got it.
So search for sharp knock. Okay, so Forge, again, Forge is the Texan?
Yeah, he's the Texan, former Marine turned construction worker, and the baddest sumbitch in Bell County. So
the baddest sumbitch in Bell County. All right.
And then
yeah, give us some direction for Amara.
Nope. You just do awesome things with your voice. However, you sound good. I have no direction for you. I don't know. This is why I just trust narrators, because they're good at their job.
Okay. All right, so
much better than I am.
Well, tell me who she is.
Okay, so she's this really sort of straight-laced huntress. She's the daughter of a chieftain. She's pretty tough. She's really sort of honor-bound. She is not big for joking. Doesn't have the greatest sense of humor, but yeah, so she has a sly sense of humor. It's really dry, kind of cutting, and it can be pretty sarcastic, but pretty proper overall.
Okay.
Is she a traveler, or is she?
No, she's a local, a citizen. So she's yeah, so she's an NPC.
Okay. You got the right spot?
Am I just that? Am I her? I'm just her?
Okay. Just Amara.
Okay.
Excuse me. A sharp knock at the door gave me a start. It's open, I called out.
Should I be English too?
If you want.
Okay, so I guess I do need to give direction. I'm so sorry. I'm so bad at this. I'm so bad at this.
No, not at all.
So the storm marches are Thai inspired, but that's kind of a hard accent to hit. So the way that I always kind of think of her is sort of a non-English speaker who or a non-English speaker who's learned really proper English, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So
yeah.
kind of clipped and formal, and but yeah, so it's really hard to describe a Thai accent unless you've lived in Thailand.
Yeah,
but
just do an impression of my mom.
I'm not going to touch that.
Okay.
Should I just cook the shit out of some pork?
Yeah, just burn all the meat in the house. Okay.
Molly. Okay.
It's open, I called out, dismissing my interface. The door swung in on silent hinges, revealing Jake. Amara, Forge, and Vlad trailed behind him. I waved them all over, ignoring the sniggers and barely concealed laughs as they shuffled past me.
Well, don't you clean up nice, partner?
Forge barked. Oh man, going from Southern to like slightly Cockney British is very difficult.
I can only imagine. I'm glad I have your job.
Forge barked, his Reese?
Yeah.
His Reese face breaking into a huge smile.
He does, doesn't he?
Amara
Yeah, it's
said.
good. It's perfect.
Amara said, ghosting forward, tracing her finger over the fine jacket lapels, eyeing the combination approvingly. I cleared my throat, feeling just a hint of heat invade my cheeks. Damned woman somehow had a way of getting inside my head. You can all admire how amazing I look after, I offered. We have work to do, and a tight deadline. So, let's get to it, eh? Jake shut the door after Vlad shuffled through. The alchemic weaponeer, at least, didn't seem to notice my change in appearance at all. But then that wasn't so surprising. When the man didn't have his head stuck in some dusty book, it was lodged firmly in the clouds. So, what is job, huh? He asked in that strange accent of his. Russian, Jack called it. A jailbreak, I replied as I fetched the blueprint Gavin had provided and pulled it open. It strutted over to the far wall, pulled free a pair of matte black throwing daggers, tucked conveniently up my sleeve, and pinned the blueprint in place. This is our target, the Inquisitor's chapter hall, located in Heroick's Temple District. Now most of the Inquisitors in Eastern Eldgard operate out of there, a fact known by most. A lesser-known fact, however, is that located deep in the bowels of that place is a secured dungeon, one of the few places to hold citizens and travelers alike, a place with a known deadbind room. And these Imperial bastards happen to be holding someone very important to the Union, a man by the name of Ito Haruchika, a traveler. He's a thief, saboteur, and spy who fell into a bit of rotten luck. Our man Ito got picked up by this zealot named Sir Brandon Berwick. Berwick's had it out for the Union for as long as he's been drawing breath. Practically came out of the womb clutching an Inquisitor's blade and reciting lines from the Codex of Revealing Light. Now, Berwick is a seneschal. He's a big shot, runs the Inquisitor's heroic faction chapter. He's got sway, real power, and if this uptight sod manages to break Ito, and he will, given enough time, it could spell disaster for the Union.
So, we break in and take out this agent, no?
Vlad said, eyeing the blueprints carefully, already analyzing just how the building might be breached. Is an Imperial tax collector an oxygen thief? I shot back in response. Yes, obviously. But the trick is to do it without getting Ito killed in the process. And to further complicate things, no one can know it's us, and we can't implicate the Crimson Alliance in any way. Can't upset the balance between the Alliance and the Empire. This'll need to be an off-the-books job, so no one tells Jack or Abby. Not a bloody soul. Understood? I stared at each of them in turn, pinning them in place until each nodded. All right then. Now, while we're at it, I also intend to plant a dagger in Sir Berwick's self-righteous back. Even as I spoke, I felt a nudge of guilt, but I shoved it down. Saint or not, Berwick needed to go. Besides, I was a thief and a cutthroat. I'd done worse for less, and I couldn't afford to have people thinking too highly of me. Couldn't sully my hard-won reputation as a mercenary arsehole, and damned if I'd pass up gold, fame, and an extra proficiency point.
Wait, so you want the 5 of us
Amara swung her arm.
to infiltrate an impenetrable Inquisitor stronghold, break into a fortified prison, kill the Inquisitor commander, in a fortress full of Inquisitors, no less, then escape without getting caught or being recognized?
Not so much a question there as a statement of utter disbelief. I sniffed and nodded. Glad you were paying attention. But don't worry your pretty little head. This is my area of expertise. You don't get to be where I am without being damned good. And I have a plan. Needs a bit of tweaking, but we'll get it done. Vlad, you'll be responsible for making us one hell of a diversion and building us an emergency exit. For the getaway, I'm thinking something not too different from that job we pulled over in Ankara. He pressed his lips into a thin line, the gears already cranking away inside his skull.
And what have you in mind for the distraction?
He asked, quirking an eyebrow. I grinned. Remember you telling me about that Remember you telling me about that ratocalypse idea over mead? Duh. He nodded again. You think you could make that happen? He paused, seesawing his head left, right, as he rubbed his chin.
Hard to say without trying, but with a little help and time,
he shrugged.
Perhaps. My people, they say, Roboten evolk. Lesne ubis.
Sorry, man. I'm sorry. I don't have a pronunciation guide. I think it's mostly phonetic, but I'm not a Russian speaker.
Roboten evolk. Velesne ubizet. Work. She is no wolf to run into the woods.
Excellent. Excellent, I said, even though his comment made not one bloody lick of sense to me. Not uncommon with Vlad. Jake, that's where you come in. A fetch quest, if you will. Get this man what he needs, which is likely to be rats. Loads of them. Plague tunnels are a good place to start. Oh, and Vlad, non-lethal, eh? They're liable to be alliance members in attendance, and we don't want to hurt them. I'm thinking some sort of massive paralytic if you can whip it up.
Da, I have just the thing.
He replied. Ugh. He replied, rubbing his hands together, eyes hazy and distant, lost in thought.
Though I'll have to devise way to get rats to you,
he muttered, dipping one hand into his pocket and pulling out a fat pipe.
Oh, and what exactly do you have planned for us?
Amara asked, folding her arms across her chest, a frown of disapproval on her face. We'll be doing the inside work. Infiltrate, extract, and kill. But for now, we need to go get ourselves an invite. I pulled my twin daggers free, plunder in my left hand, peril in my right, and gave them a spinning flourish. Forge, you're with us on this leg of the heist. Forge, you're with us on this leg of the heist. Grab what you need for a good old-fashioned round of breaking and entering. We've got some business in the Upper Garden District.
You guys are so good at this.
Yay!
It's like our job.
I know. It's like your job. That's why I like working with people whose job it is to be good at things that I'm terrible at.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's
it's
great.
very useful. I'm learning how to do that as well.
Yeah.
So, James Hunter, thank you so much for coming by, talking to us about your book, working with us on this anthology. I'm really excited to get this thing recorded and out there. I'd say I think we can get this done and out the door before Christmas. So, worst case scenario, early January release. Best case scenario, like around Christmas release.
Either way, and it sounds amazing. I'm so excited to be working with you guys. Finally, feels like you're amazing. You guys are amazing, and I've wanted to do something with you guys forever. So it just feels so fortunate that we have this opportunity. So thank you guys so much for taking on this project. I can't wait to hear what you guys do with it.
Yeah, I think everybody is excited for us to be working together. And also, guys, if you're interested in checking out the anthology before the audio comes out, if you just can't wait, the link to the Kindle version is in the description below. If this is your first time here with us at Sound Booth Theater Live, and you liked hanging out with us and you like what we're doing, we do this all the time. Monday, I'm gonna be doing a stream with Hugo Huesca to do a reading of Dungeon Lord 3, which is already out on Kindle. It's coming out. This is another one that I'm trying for hopefully early January release. And also you can find the Discord server, this SBTL Discord server, in our description. So go there, and Tuesday night I'll be reading all of Ray Johnson's story in this book on Discord. So I'll be recording.
It's so good. If you guys haven't read it, it's called The Funeral Parlor. And I can't say 5 words. You guys have to read the whole thing. But it's from the perspective of a mob, a spider who is tasked with helping Jack. And it's quirky and it's funny. I remember reading it, like the first paragraph, and I was like, there's no way this is going to work. And then by like paragraph 3, I was like, damn, I am deeply invested in this spider. How did that happen? So, yeah, it's really good. So you guys will enjoy that a lot.
He read a lot of Everybody Loves Large Chests. That's how he figured out how to do this. So yeah, Tuesday night, I think 7 p.m. Central. I'll post again on the Facebook group about exactly what time we're going to be reading with Ray. And yeah, watch, subscribe to the channel and keep an eye out for us. Thanks again, James.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks again, Annie.
Thanks you.
Thanks me, and you and everybody have a wonderful day.
All right, bye, guys.
Bye.